Welcome back to another episode of Believe in the Broncos on the Believe Network, sponsored by FanDuel Sportsbook, your home for everything sports betting. I am Patrick Chiotti. I'm one of your two co-hosts of this program. Joining me, as always, is the wonderful, illustrious Bri Maestas. Bri, hello. It's nice to see you again. How are you doing?
Hi, happy day to you, Patrick. I'm excited that we're back and we're going to preview a fun game. Hopefully, it's fun. Fingers crossed. I don't know. I feel all over the place because every time I go to talk about this team, I feel enlivened. I feel excited. And then that tiny sense of grim defeat starts sneaking in. So maybe you can talk me through it.
Well, I hopefully will be your guide to the lights that will be at the end of the tunnel. The Broncos taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars at home for the first time in what seems like forever. The Jags are coming in. They are one of the hotter teams in the NFL right now, leading the AFC South by one game. It's a close race down there, but they are fighting for the division title with the Houston Texans. So this game has a lot of implications for the Broncos, but also for the Jaguars, even more so. The Broncos, of course, vying for that number one seed in the AFC. If they win two of these last three games, they clinch. This is a massive game, but I think this is another true test for the Broncos. Last week was obviously a big one with Green Bay coming into town. And now you have another really hot team, really underrated defense, I feel like, in my eyes. They've been a team that I've kind of been secretly watching throughout this season. I love me some Trevor Lawrence. Liam Cohen was an interesting hire for them, especially after Doug Peterson and the Urban Meyer fiascos that they've had in recent years. So this is going to be a fun game. I'm pretty excited for it, but I still remain hopeful for our Denver Broncos, Bri. So we're going to cover a lot in this episode. We're going to talk about the Broncos offense versus this stout Jacksonville defense. We're going to talk about the fiery Jacksonville offense against this Broncos defense that may have struggled a little bit in recent weeks against pretty good opponents. And then we'll talk about some awesome betting odds from our sponsor, FanDuel Sportsbook. So, Bri, before we get into that, let's talk some injuries. The Broncos injury report from yesterday's practice, Justin Strnad dealing with that ankle injury. He was a DNP, so his availability for this game is likely not going to be there. So you kind of talked about it in the last episode, but with him now officially being a DNP and trending towards not playing, how big does this injury affect the Broncos in this game against Jacksonville?
It's almost as if they can't get their feet underneath him when it comes to the health of the defense. And so that's a weird thing to say considering how well they've been playing. And I think it's also interesting to note when you talk about the idea that they've been struggling, right, the last couple of weeks. I think when you set the bar so high, you see how elite they had been playing and their defensive dominance had really been showing throughout. That now that they're not limiting teams to under, 14 points, you start to wonder, are they slipping some? I think a little bit of it can be diagnosed with a ripple effect as you had Pat Surtain out and then back, Dre Greenlaw in, then out, then back again. An injury to this caliber, especially because Justin Strnad has such a high impact rate. We talked about it last week, or I think even the last episode, on not only his functional role on the defense, and he's been absolutely imperative to the I want to say the uniqueness and also the stability of this defense, especially in the middle of the field. You also noted his special teams performances. And so we are starting to see that some of the other players who had been out and about, who could maybe possibly step in, really haven't been activated in that role. So Drew Sanders, obviously not available. I think Kareem Reed is trending towards being back at some point, but there is the inevitable discussion of, if you go down to Justin Strnad, do you shake up the I guess the stability, right? You have that core three, you have the opportunity to sort of smooth things out. But for a multiple week injury, which I fear that might be the case, I think then you're looking at a little bit of a scramble. Now, that could not necessarily be a bad thing, as Vance Joseph seems to know exactly what to do with all the puzzle pieces. Even if he loses one, he still seems to be able to complete and get the job done. And that's also an execution modality when you come to the players and they know what they need to do. So it's always the next guy up with this Denver Broncos team. It's built that way. It is stacked that way when it gets to the depth and the bench. And so I'm not ultimately too worried. You just hate to see anybody get injured, especially at this point in the season. And then when you're seeing this team with the success that they've been able to garner as we head into week 16, is that, are we at that point now finally? So it flew by. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you all feel this way, but it feels like we're waiting and waiting for the NFL season to start, and then all of a sudden it's almost over. So for the Broncos, they'll be able to extend that a little bit with a playoff run, as they are one of the, only two teams that have clinched a playoff spot. I think this is a boding sign that I'm not too worried, but I am upset that Justin Strnad is facing a few weeks out. Hopefully not injured reserve. Yet to hear details on that, but I think they were concerned about it. They weren't concerned about RJ Harvey. They, weren't concerned about some of the other guys that got banged up, and you can see it on the injury report that there's a couple of guys who have been added, but it seems like they're all full participants, and Justin Strnad being out it sucks.
Yeah, it does. And like we talked about, they're missing a big part of special teams, a key rotational guy on defense. Bri, another player who's been out for some time, he did pop up on the injury report, but in a good way. He is back practicing, and that is Ben Powers, the former starting left guard for the Broncos, was limited in practice. So a good sign, but probably not going to play in this game. I think that's a good thing. I talked about it on another program earlier this week, but I wanted to ask you this. Do you think that if he's healthy enough to play in this game, do you start him over Alex Palczewski against the Jaguars, or do you kind of hold off and let him continue the process of getting back to 100%?
I think when we talk about being medically cleared, I think that's the key phrase where you start wondering, yes, but are you ready to go? And we've seen the Broncos be weighing short-term risk versus long-term payoff. And I think regardless of whether or not he was good to go against Jacksonville, I think being slow and strategic about this is important, because we know how invaluable Ben Powers is to the interior offensive line, but I also think that it could be more of a risk to get him back too quickly, especially, you already said it, Palcho's been doing well. And I think chemistry matters. It matters immensely in the rest of the regular season, and it matters in the playoffs. So I don't think that they would necessarily hold him out long term. Like, it's not like they're not going to play him the rest of the year. But I think true healthy, shaking off the rust is important. I think not starting slow is important. And I've had this conversation on a multitude of different platforms. Slow starts are terrible. I think against an opponent like the Jaguars, I don't think you really want to rush him back into that predicament, especially because the line seems to not be rippling any further. But I think you do have to start being smart about the approach. So, limited snaps, clear guardrails. I think if Denver were to jump out early, which I don't think this is the game to do, could you see him get some work in? But no, I think ultimately there's two remaining games after this Jaguars matchup. And I think that you start to test the waters, because Pat, you're a huge proponent of it. NFL real-time snaps is a lot different than practice. And I don't think that you necessarily want to try that out against this Jaguars team.
No, I don't think you do. This is going to be a tough defense to play against. I think the best road for getting Powers back up to like full game speed is sit him out this week, let Palcho continue what he's been doing, let him go up against, like, for a guy who is undrafted and you're developing him, this is like a great run for Alex Palczewski. He's gotten to face the Green Bay Packers and their talented front. Now he's going to go up against another talented front in the Jaguars. I think that this is a good opportunity for him to get some valuable experience in the NFL. And, who knows? Like, you might have a decision after this season with Ben Powers' contract. Do we want to keep this guy, or, can we move off of him? Is Palczewski maybe a better option long-term at left guard, or is there another person that we're targeting, whether it's via draft or free agency? I think there's a lot of questions at that point, but for now, the main goal for a guy like Ben Powers is let's get him back and healthy for this playoff run. He's a guy that has been a part of this locker room for some years now. Let's get him a ring, and let's make sure that he stays healthy, because we definitely want to have him out there for that playoff run. Couple other, quick notes. RJ Harvey is back and practicing. He's totally fine. Mike McGlinchey was banged up at the end of the Green Bay game. He is back and fine. You mentioned Kareem Reed. He is back from the hamstring injury. He is practicing. Don't know about his availability for the game yet, but should hopefully be good to go. And Marvin Mims also, he got a little banged up during the Packers game. He is back and practicing. So everything's all good on that front. Bri, let's go over to the Jacksonville Jaguars. This team, man, I mean, I said it at the beginning of the show. This is a team that I've been watching pretty closely throughout the season. A secret root for me. I love Trevor Lawrence. I liked the offensive minded hire that they brought in Liam Cohen, because of the work that he did with Baker Mayfield and just his overall play design. I think that he's one of the better offensive play callers in the NFL. And he's doing a lot of good stuff with this team. But this defense, Bri, right now, as it stands, they're 10th in the NFL in points allowed. But when we look at their splits when they're on the road, this team is 5th in yards per game on the road, 1st in rushing yards allowed on the road. They are a stout run defense, 10th in quarterback pressures on the road. However, they are 20th in passing yards allowed on the road. And I don't think it can be understated. They are going into what is probably the most hostile environment in the NFL right now. Broncos have not lost a game at home this year. They are currently riding the hottest winning streak in the NFL. But this team, we cannot overlook this team. This is a very good defense. What do you see from the Jaguars defense that has you maybe a little concerned for the Broncos offense in this game?
I think I always am trending towards slightly concerned at all times. So I think that's a good mentality to be in. Concerned. Yeah, it's like the Hulk. I'm not always angry, though. I'm just constantly fretful and worrisome. But this is the game, Pat. And I know I kind of asked it before we started here, like, is this the game we actually should have been worried about? The Packers game, obviously a formidable matchup, but the Jaguars are, for against all odds, I almost want to put it out there, because it felt like at the beginning of the season, they really couldn't find a stability and balance for what Liam Cohen wanted to do and with how Trevor Lawrence likes to function. I still think, although he's playing some of his best football, that he can be sort of temperamental when it comes to his fluctuations, which all teams can. We're not looking for performance robots out there. Like, and I think it can often conflate with like, they're fraudulent simply because they make mistakes. And so I don't want to throw it out there like I'm not believing in what Trevor Lawrence is dealing, because I think he's playing some of his very best football, which is interesting to note, because I thought the pairing with the Doug Peterson, obviously that didn't work out, but I think it was really good for him. And so now Liam Cohen has come in, and I think that they've smoothed out any of the wrinkles that they had. And now you're really getting to see the best potential of Trevor Lawrence. I was sad when Travis Hunter went down, because I felt like the chemistry building there was both good internally and externally for what that team was trying to do. But it seems like they're kind of built like the Broncos, where they're able to sort of rely on the next guy. They have really found an identity, and their defense too, since the question is really posed as who's going to blink first, right? Is it
Yeah.
going to be the Jaguars defense or the Broncos offense? Broncos offense is finding the steam, the cogs and everything are greased and they're starting to click together. But Jacksonville's defense is aggressive and they're fast and opportunistic. I don't think they're invincible though.
Yeah.
I think they want to. I think they want to pressure quarterbacks into mistakes, especially in the caliber of Bo Nix, who's still very young. And I think the matchup gets really interesting because Bo Nix is now finding where that's his strong suit. You're no longer living and dying by the dual-edged sword. You're kind of playing at your speed. You're doing what your strengths are. You're leaning into what you like to do. And I almost feel like it'll be the way the ball bounces, where Denver's going to find rhythm. Jacksonville's trying to speed Bo Nix up. It's going to capitalize because that's where he kind of flourishes. He's able to make quick decisions. You neutralize the aggression. And I think protection is key. We were talking about how, important it is to keep the synergistic flow of the offensive line so that Bo can be in clean pockets early. He's not rushed. And if there is a blitz, I think Bo Nix is finding out that his superpower is continuing to do what he does best and take those risks that really overcome that. So I almost feel like it'll be that push and play of we're going to try to make you do things that make you uncomfortable. And it's like that putty where you work it and it gets more tough, more resilient. That's how Bo Nix is going to show up in this latter part of the season because we knew that that's where he was going to do well. Staying patient doesn't mean having all of the time in the world to figure it out. It's quick decision making and it's being fruitful in what you do best. And so I hope that everyone can see that I've taken my orange glasses off. I'm not speaking from a realm of like, I hope that's what happens. That's really where Denver thrives. They thrive on that structure. I think Jacksonville will thrive on chaos, and it's going to come down to whoever continues to play their game that comes out victorious.
Yeah, I think that we've seen Bo kind of break this trend of, especially in the last few weeks, like teams will send pressure at him, and he knows his answer, right? Some quarterbacks in some situations will panic and make the wrong decision or feel that pressure and make a bad throw. And while that was probably true for Bo, especially earlier in the season, he's kind of worked out the kinks a little bit, and so he's just playing on a different level right now. And I think that's the best case scenario. I think an important piece of this specific game plan when we're talking about the Jaguars defense is the Broncos run game has been a little iffy since J.K. Dobbins went out. Now they're giving a ton of carries to R.J. Harvey and 19 carries last game. My goodness, that's great. But this team is very stout, and they're not going to let you just run all over them. Like I said, best defense in the league on the road when it comes to stopping the run. They do not give up a lot of explosive runs. They've only allowed 2 more than the Broncos have this season. So this is a team that you're going to have to establish the run at some point because Sean Payton is doing a lot of play action, and he's kind of I love the approach that Payton is taking, especially like with the Green Bay game. He talked about understanding how they scout and what they do. And so what did he do to combat that? Well, he went under center a lot, and Bo was extremely successful in that. So, which was something that a lot of people said he couldn't do. So he's just trying to prove people wrong all the time.
He was handcuffed by that.
This guy, he was in the gun for most of his college career. So how could he play under center? Well, they figured it out. So I think I trust Payton in his game planning, but like we have to figure out a way to run the ball against these guys. I think a big part of this game needs to be that element. Like Sean Payton, I think now is fully engulfed in how to play in Denver. Hearing his comments about like, we got to tire out the other side. And how do you do that, Bri? You keep them on the field for as long as humanly possible. You have to control the game. And so the longer you can keep Trevor Lawrence and that offense off the field, and the longer you can keep that defense on the field, especially in the first half, those guys are going to be gassed. They're going to be gassed by the second half. And we saw that. We saw that in the Green Bay game. I think that this is going to have to be a game where you got to figure out a way to at least run the ball a little bit. Screen game, be damned. Run the damn ball. Okay, we've got to figure out some way to get some yards and sustain drives. Now, I feel like they'll be able to throw the ball a little bit against this defense. So if you can get 4 or 5 yards in your first 2 downs, I think you're looking at consistently 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4s. I think that's a better place to be than shit, we just ran the ball 2 times and we only got 3 yards out of it. Now we're in a 3rd and long situation. So and it's not like Bo hasn't been able to convert those. It's just that's just not a place you want to live. Bri, the Jacksonville offense going up against this defense, and I said that the defense had been struggling a little bit in recent weeks, more so in the first half of games, picking it up as the game goes on. It's kind of the reverse, like they don't get tired. They kind of get more wound up as the game goes. What do you think is the biggest key for the Broncos defense going up against Trevor Lawrence and this beautiful flow of this Jacksonville Jaguars offense?
I love the accent, specifically because I can't recreate it. So thank you for making me laugh as we try to.
Have you seen all the is it Jaguars? Is it Jaguars? I'm like, no, it's Jaguars.
Yeah, get it right.
The Jacksonville Jaguars. What is the biggest key?
I mean, there's a couple of them, but I think this Denver Broncos defense probably needs to lean more into winning with discipline, and not gambling. But the best part of it is they're kind of coming to terms with the maturity of when confidence disappears for the other team. It's almost like it mirrors in this parallel for Bo Nix and for Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence obviously being the vet here, but I think as long as throws start getting contested without any phantom PI flags, I think that your progressions get disrupted. And this defense can win by doing what they do best, by creating that pressure without having to gamble. Because I worry that Trevor Lawrence feeling himself allows him to take what you give him, and then will punish you, right? If this defense overreacts, you're going to see some really terrible timing, long drives that I think are going to be quick strikes, closer to the end zone than comfort. And I love that the ebb and flow of a game. We talked about how important home field advantage is. That in Mile High, especially right now where we're at in this season, it becomes so loud. Like on top of the altitude, you have the disruption, you have the intensity, you have the kind of inability to get through what you need to, simply because it's too loud, it's too dominating. Now, the Packers traveled really well. I don't foresee Jaguars fans traveling to that capacity, so I still feel like it'll be mostly Broncos country that are deciding this game. But at the end of the day, I think the Broncos ultimately, and this is the true key to the game, they decide the game with red zone defense. I think that Jacksonville is really good at finishing drives, but I think Denver can hold them to field goals instead of touchdowns. So if it's not goal line stops after goal line stops, I think it ultimately is leverage that's shifting the game and the result dramatically, because it's great. And I think this defense can actually do it at a higher rate, where they can just shut down offenses where they can't score. At the end of the day, it's going to have to be field goals. So 3 instead of 7 is where my brain's at.
I like it. I think that's a strong mentality to carry into this game. They've done a fantastic job of holding teams. I always remember the Vic Fangio bend don't break. And I feel like they're doing a really good job of kind of playing that right. Like, so I have felt especially over the last 3-4 games, like, oh man, this team just got into the red zone. There's the penalty. Now it's 1st and goal. And then it's like, damn, a stop, damn, a
Mhm.
stop, damn, a stop. Oh, they're bringing out the field goal unit. Like that's massive, and that's a big confidence builder as well. So I think if they can hold this offense, because Lawrence is just playing at an insane level right now.
He's a
Um,
madman. I
he
like
he is.
honestly truly believe it's his best football of his career.
Yeah.
But
So we're seeing the guy.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Bri, let's get to some FanDuel fan bets
Ooh.
for this episode. We're gonna play a fun over under game. Okay. I love playing this game because I feel like you're pretty damn good at it. So here we go. I'm going to give you some props, and you can find these props over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Let's start with Bo Nix passing yards.
Okay.
Over under is currently at 236 and a half. Over under.
Over. I don't know why this would be a game that you would regress to. I'm not saying it's going to be another 300 yards passing game. I'm saying I think you're limiting a little bit. 240 is probably the baseline for me, but that ultimately, like the Packers defense wasn't a bunch of scrubs. Like we're not saying that they're going against a more formidable. I think the Jaguars are slightly improved there. I think the Broncos are going to be limited on their run game, but I still think RJ Harvey is good for at least one either or rushing or receiving touchdowns. Let's bode well on it being a receiving 12-yard hook. Like I think that it absolutely could be over. And I'll go confident. I'll say absolutely over.
Okay. I like it. Right now, the Jaguars defense is 13th in the NFL in passing yards allowed. Or sorry, I should say, let me give the actual number. They're 20th in passing yards allowed. So they're allowing about 111 passing yards a game on the road. So just the average there. Second one, Cortland Sutton receiving yards. I think this is an interesting one. Over under 58 and a half.
Oh, they got it right on the line.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's Vegas. We're playing averages. I don't necessarily think that he could be pressured into a way in which the Jaguars are responsible for being under. I think that it would come down to what we've seen as a trend for the Broncos, where there's some dropped passes on a long yard target that could allude to it being under. But that's low, and it would mean that someone else is being typically favored, and it does bode for the under because I believe Pat Bryant will be good to go. And I think that Bo really likes to kind of spread the wealth around. And I don't think that it's necessarily in favor of a Cortland Sutton career game. So, because I said it out loud, watch for a career, especially because he's on the route for tracking down most yards in the Denver Broncos organization, or at least making a name for himself. So let's go under, simply because I think there's going to be a nice mixture of targets out there for Bo Nix on Sunday.
Okay, next one. RJ Harvey rushing attempts 14 and a half, over or under. Yeah. See?
I think that they'll start off strong enough to get him kind of to halfway there, but I think the Broncos will have to rethink their strategy against this Jaguars defense. And I'm sorry, as I think this out loud, I'm trying to run through what are the implications of leaning away from the run game. It probably means Bo Nix decides to move his legs more and he's more mobile. But that's also a little bit of a risky endeavor that I'm not sure he's ready to make, as he's kind of learned that he doesn't need to do that. So I'm still going to, I bet you it's going to be like 15. Let's go over.
Okay.
Because I still think that they're going to try to go down that pack. It's probably still going to yield you 3.4 yards per carry, but I think the Broncos need that in order to continue to move the sticks by combining that with the screen game and what Bo Nix is wheeling and dealing. So let's go over, simply because 15 sounds like the sweet spot.
Okay. Last one here. The score of the game, 46.5 is the over-under. You going over or under?
46.5. I'm trying to do the math live. Over. I think it'll be, I still think it's going to be a close game. I think it needs to be a heart attack on a plate when it comes to this Broncos team, regardless of whether or not they're at home. There's always the propensity for some late scoring because both of these teams feel like they're fourth quarter champions. I think that they're ready to duel it out. And I could see this being what's the spread, do you know? Because I would say it's probably 3-2.
The spread is 3. Yeah. Broncos are 3-point faves.
Yeah, because I was going to go 27-24, so that'll take me to the over.
Yeah, I think it's a solid guess. Is that your score prediction? Is 27-24 Broncos?
Yeah, if I can remember it for the rest of what I got going on here. But yeah,
that's real.
We'll put you on record here for the show that matters on Believe in the Broncos, 27-24 Broncos.
Okay, yeah, I'm also going to go the over there. But I'm going to say way over. The Broncos have put up points against like good opponents, right? And so I feel like we're just in stride. I feel like the Broncos are playing really good football. I'm going to go 38-27. 38-27 Broncos. Yeah, way over. So that's my official prediction there. So let us know what your predictions are for the game. Let us know your over-under picks as well in the comments, and make sure that you run over to FanDuel Sportsbook and place your bets if you haven't already. Make sure that you tune into the game. Going to be a massive one. Jaguars, Broncos in Denver. This is going to be a potential playoff matchup too. Honestly, this could be a big game as we look down the road to the playoffs. That is going to do it for this episode of Believe in the Broncos on the Believe Network. Make sure that you follow us on social media at Bri Maces 303, at Patrick Coyote. Follow at Believe Network as well. Make sure you subscribe to the show on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. And most importantly, go Broncos.
Go Broncos.